The Long Trail Brewing Company sits on the banks of the Ottauquechee River in Bridgewater Corners, Vermont. A community of less than 100 people with a general store, post office, and a brewery. Here, Long Trail brewers handcraft beers in the heart of the Green Mountain State. They pursue brewing excellence, combining the finest domestic ingredients with the purest artesian water and the age-old science of brewing to make the finest, most taste-tempting, award-winning beers. The Long Trail Brewing Company is a relative newcomer as breweries go. Long Trail took shape in 1988 as Mountain Brewers, with founder Andy Fearson's goal to build a brewery and to brew beer that would be an American-made alternative to imported German and English ales.
Started to do a little bit of reading on how to make beers. I went to my first hop fields in Germany, and I just kind of fell in love with the idea of how do you make a beer like this, and that I felt pretty strongly that we could make that type of beer right here in New England and specifically in Vermont. So we did. So our original mission statement was to make a Vermont-made alternative to the imports.
The brewery was incorporated in May 1989 in Rutland, Vermont as Mountain Brewers. But a name was still needed for the beers.
The big milestone was to incorporate the brewing company called the Mountain Brewers in May of '89. And as after that big milestone was achieved for New Vermont Corporation, I'm driving home here to Bridgewater, which would have taken me up over the Sherburne Pass. And I remember as I was driving up that pass, going through name after name after name, because now that we had a name for the company, we needed a name for the beer. And as I was driving, going through all kinds of names, I crossed the Long Trail at the very top of the Sherburne Pass, and there was the sign with the little hiker that said the Long Trail, and if there ever was a light bulb or an epiphany, that was it right there. So that was it immediately, Long Trail. I almost pulled over and celebrated.
Mountain Brewers moved into its new home in the basement of the Mill Building in Bridgewater, Vermont, and began to brew its first batch of Long Trail Ale. 500 gallons, enough to fill 35 kegs, was ready for customers in November 1989. Brewed to fulfill Fearson's goal of creating a beer that is clean, refreshing, consistent, and highly drinkable. In May 1990, Long Trail entered into their first distribution agreement. Farrell Distributing is Vermont's oldest, largest distributor. Farrell has been with Long Trail from the beginning and has seen firsthand Long Trail successfully capture and grow market share.
The amount of brands that Farrell Distributing sells is very, very limited if you look at the amount of brands that are available in the marketplace. And it's always been their philosophy in years past that, you know, they want the marriage to work with supplier and wholesaler. And if they're going to make an investment in taking on a brand, they want to make sure it's successful. So they've been very, very selective in the process of what brands they actually take on. And back when we had the ability to get involved with Long Trail, that micro segment was starting to grow. And as a result of that, we want to be competitive in that particular category. And as a result of it, and I'm glad that it worked out that way, is that we've got the leader in the micro segment.
Long Trail is the Vermont leader in the micro segment of the industry with a 4.5 market share overall, outselling all other Vermont brewed beers combined. Long Trail is number 2 on draft. Only Anheuser-Busch sells more draft beer in Vermont.
Well, when we bring a distributor on board, what we think is important is to tell the distributor what is different, what is unique about Long Trail. We think it's very important to let them know about some of our success stories in existing markets. It's important to let them know that success is sustained so that we will show 5-year growths, even in the case of Vermont, over 10 years of sustained double-digit growth. I think that's very, very important. It's important to work with a distributor on building profitability for both Long Trail and for that distributor.
The success of Long Trail in Vermont is translated to its other markets as well. 5 distributors in New Hampshire, 4 in Maine, 5 in Connecticut. Long Trail entered the Connecticut market in April 1995, New Hampshire in September 1996, and Maine in the spring of 2001. From 1998 through 2002, Long Trail sales in all these markets grew at double digits annually. 2003 has seen the introduction of Long Trail into Rhode Island, Western Massachusetts, and upstate New York. In 2003, with the introduction of these new markets and continued growth in existing markets, Long Trail projects volume at 43,000 barrels. Recognition of the importance of packaging in capturing and retaining the interest of the consumer has always been a key component in Long Trail's marketing strategy. Labeling colors are bright. Individual product graphics have great eye appeal with a touch of humor. In every case, the brand Long Trail comes through loud and clear.
The look of the flagship in particular is in support of the Long Trail and its hiking heritage. The Long Trail, as you may know, is the oldest hiking trail in the country. And the packaging is very Vermont.
The branding elements that we were talking about with Long Trail, as well as conveying the location that the beer is made and the brewery, is also to have some very distinctive colors in the branding, to have these things repeated throughout everything that we do. They have a very specific red that they use. The gold encircling the picture is one of their branding elements. The hiker, the white hiker in the red circle is something that appears on everything, and we again try to repeat these things so that if someone is across a room holding one of these, you may not even be able to read the label, but you know it's a Long Trail. And that's good branding.
The seasonals are a little different. They're a little more pastel color, brighter, maybe with a lighter, maybe humor injected, catch the eye of the consumer and to get them to purchase the product. So we expect the graphics to make the first buy, and we expect the product in the package to make successive buys.
In 1994, Mountain Brewers changed their name to the Long Trail Brewing Company to reflect the reality that they were known as the Long Trail Guys. Long Trail was outgrowing its basement home. Just up the river, a 13-acre site, what had been a hayfield, came up for sale, and Long Trail purchased the site. Here, Long Trail built its state-of-the-art brewery.
When you build a brewery in the middle of Vermont, you're faced with certain obstacles. We live in a very rural, outlying area, and it's a very beautiful area, but along with that beauty comes absolutely no manufacturing infrastructure. When we bought this hayfield in 1994, it had no gas line, no sewer line, no water line, no power. We couldn't put a water line in because it didn't exist, so the very first thing we had to do was drill wells. And it's another one of those points in the life of Long Trail where I was the expectant father literally pacing right beside the well drilling rig as we went down by the foot, hoping and praying for water. And at 120 feet, we struck it rich with about 20, 30 gallons a minute. And then we kept going down to 200 feet and got 190 gallons a minute. And so we got very, very lucky in that this hayfield, then hayfield, is sitting on a lake. And it's absolutely fantastic, deep artesian well water. Very, very, very good brewing water, and plenty of it.
Long Trail Brewers brought with them into the new brewery the same commitment to quality that has been the hallmark of Long Trail from the first batch made in the basement of the mill, and applied it to each batch made in the new brewery. And they brought the same team of brewers with over 73 years of combined brewing experience, the same keeper of the yeast, the same marketing manager, production manager, and sales professionals that have been responsible for Long Trail's successful introduction and growth. And they also brought with them a deep understanding of the science of brewing and the same commitment to quality and quality control. But beer is 95% water. What about the water? The Long Trail Brewery sits on the bank of one of Vermont's most scenic small rivers, the Ottauquechee. The river flows from Killington Mountain's watershed and is filled by melting snow, falling rain, and mountain springs. The river tumbles gently by the brewery to the delight of visitors lunching on the deck. But the river is not the story here. The story is the water that finds its way hundreds of feet under the ground, water purified as it filters its way down through bedrock. Water so special that it's been judged the finest drinking water in Vermont. Just imagine the quality of the beers.
And we want a bottle of Long Trail to taste on day 90 like it tasted on day 1. And we've just made the biggest commitment yet to that by adding a whole new bottling line.
Long Trail's new filler arrived in the spring of 2003, and the entire bottle line was redrawn to increase productivity and customer service. This bottle filler and the new bottling line represents a significant investment on Long Trail's part, actually costing more than the building that houses it. An investment to ensure the quality of its product and to meet the increasing demand for its products region-wide. Long Trail has doubled its fermentation capacity to 80,000 barrels per year, with the addition of new fermentation tanks to the brewing line. This increase in capacity will enable Long Trail to produce more high-quality product, further enhancing productivity and customer service.
As an American manufacturer, we take a huge amount of pride, put a lot of energy into quality control of raw materials. We buy barley right from the field. We have very stringent parameters by which we buy barley. And the same thing goes with our hop purchases. So it does start with raw materials.
Recognizing early on that consumers want a variety of choices, Long Trail brews a family of fine ales, a beer for all seasons. First is the flagship Long Trail Ale. Long Trail Ale, for over 10 years Vermont's largest selling amber ale, is a full-bodied complex brew. Top fermenting yeast and cold finishing temperatures results in a complex yet clean, full flavor. Truly a flagship, as it represents 60 to 65% of sales region-wide. Long Trail also brews 3 seasonals: Blackberry Wheat in spring and summer, Harvest Ale in the fall, and Hibernator in winter. And most recently, Hit the Trail, a brown ale in the tradition of a Northern English style.
We take over 100 different measurements on every single batch of product.
Before a bottle of beer, before a 6-pack, 12-pack, case, or pallet leaves the Long Trail loading dock, the beer will go through more than 100 quality control checkpoints to ensure that it maintains its quality and consistency.
Those measurements are made to, again, make sure we have a consistent flavor profile out of the brewery, but to make sure that that consistent flavor profile stands the test of time.
There are measurements taken throughout the brewing process, right from all the raw materials, the water, the malt, the hops, the yeast, you name it. We check it at least once or twice throughout the process.
While quality control at Long Trail is the responsibility of each member of the brewing team, Bill Yanni, Long Trail's quality assurance manager, a PhD in microbiology with 19 years' experience in food science, monitors each step of the process, starting with the arrival of grain.
We look at every step of the process, but we begin with a raw material delivery. Well, we take a statistical sample from the truck, and then we analyze the grain in the laboratory. We like to begin with our raw materials. We need the highest quality raw materials possible.
Each shipment of grain is sampled directly from the truck and analyzed in the lab to determine that it conforms to contract specifications. One of the most important quality assurance tests performed at Long Trail is the measurement of the concentration of dissolved oxygen in the finished product. Oxygen is the enemy of beer. Too much, and the beer will go stale. Long Trail randomly samples bottles to verify that there are less than 25 parts per billion of dissolved oxygen, so little that it's virtually oxygen-free.
And all that goes onto a production quality assurance check sheet, which is filled out on a daily basis.
Each batch is analyzed using state-of-the-art microbiological test techniques to be certain the beer contains no biological contaminants that might affect flavor stability and shelf life. Yanni also performs an accelerated shelf life test by setting aside randomly selected bottles from each bottling run to be tested at 1 and 2 week intervals.
We have a set that we heat this bottle up for 1 week, and this is the control that's kept in the refrigerator. And then we do the same thing for 2 weeks.
Once again, to be certain that the beer is consistent and stable when it finds its way from the distributor to a retailer to the consumer. Long Trail's process control ensures consistency of product, and the science of brewing ensures that the brewing and bottling process is repeatable time after time, day after day, month after month, guaranteeing that a Long Trail customer will consistently enjoy the best product possible, and assuring distributors and retailers a consistent product and a long shelf life. Long Trail continues to expand its market share within its existing markets and is committed to the development of new markets for its product line. Long Trail is equally committed to maintaining the superior quality of its products, the dedication of its people to producing a consistently outstanding product, and, as important, its responsiveness to its customers. For more information on how your business can profit from a relationship with the Long Trail Brewing Company, please visit our website at www.longtrail.com.